Property Investing for Women, empowering women to build wealth through property. A podcast brought to you by Investor Women. Create, nurture, prosper.
Hi and welcome to another episode of Property Investing for Women. Happy New Year! Well, it is February and my first episode is in February. February being a very important and sentimental month for me. In fact, those of you who don't know my story, I came into this country in February. Actually on the 26th of Feb in 1997 with only $4,500. And today we've got a massive property portfolio. And so I wanted to introduce to you the person who has been on this journey with me all along, my own husband, Mr. Victor Kumar, the director of Right Property Group, who has helped hundreds of people build successful property portfolios over the years. And so welcome, Victor.
Thank you. I thought I'd never get invited on this podcast, that I've always invite you on mine, but you've never invited me on yours. So, what took you so long?
Oh, good things come. You have to wait. Good things come. So, what I wanted to do today is just how we started as we just had $4,500, no security, no financial backing, pretty much nothing to our name, and how we started. And I want to share that with others so that people can see that when we had nothing and how it was possible for us to get to where we are, what would be the roadmap for somebody, and especially for women, because we all feel a little bit scared about taking those steps. So my thought process today is whether someone is married or have a partner and wanting to invest, whether they're doing it together or whether it's a person, a woman on her own, wanting to invest in property and they're held back. So I want to share some ideas as a roadmap as to what we did and how they can implement in their lives, and what we've learned and how we're implementing for our clients. What could we do to help people?
Yeah, sure. And you can see that investing is a breeze. You see what I did there? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So really, I think when you talk $4,500 and you bring it to today's dollars, the small voice there is already to say, geez, now $4,500, that is a huge scale up to be able to do that. But it was a methodical and also a haphazard approach that we had. If we recollect back to those days when we started from our sister's garage, right? My sister's garage, and we lasted about 3 months there, and then we moved on to a unit. And so the $4,500 was quickly swallowed up
by a mattress, a vacuum cleaner, and a bit of a deposit for a car.
yes, that's right. And I guess the little voice in the back of the head for someone that's listening to this now is to say, I can't do it now because, hang on, I can't do anything with $4,500. But it's all relative, right? Whilst we had $4,500, we found ways to get to the deposit side of things to start investing. In fact, we didn't even start investing. We bought our first home.
Yeah. So the idea was to build up a deposit, and what we knew was buying our first home, and that's what we knew back then. So, and remember, we had this borrowing capacity which was quite high. We could have bought a really nice home. But we decided to not use up our full capacity and just buy a smaller home, which was still a decent, good home.
Yeah.
And for a cheaper home.
That's right. Yeah, and it happened both by design and by accident as well. By design because we didn't want to commit and redline all of our holding capacity for the property. So we took into account that we'd be surviving on just one income, not both of our incomes, which wasn't, if you recall, wasn't that high. I mean, $37,000 for me and 23 for you.
26 or 23, something for me, yes.
And
well, still that felt like a lot of money back then. Compared to our Fiji income, that was like 9,000 for me.
Yep. Yeah. And so that's $9,000 Fijian, right? So if you bring it back to Australian dollars, it was about $4,000 Australian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, building up the deposit that way, because at that time there was you'd only get 5% savings or even 2% savings, and you'd be able to get into an unoccupied mortgage. So we elected to go lesser than what our friends were doing in terms of the quality of the home and the grandeur of the home, to then be comfortable. And that's when we really got the bug of investing.
Yeah, because going back about 8 months before that, so we bought our home about 8 months after work, and when we'd moved out of the garage, we were renting. So when one of the tenants in another unit said to me, "Oh, all these people make a lot of money from rental properties," and I'm thinking, they have all these properties. I'm thinking, oh, how does that work? And here you were also looking at how to make the most of our lives here in this country, and so you were looking up how to create wealth, and I was thinking about how to create wealth. And here I had all these dreams that I wanted to dress in a certain way, I wanted to live in a house which was doing such and such, and
It was a nightmare.
and so we had these ideas, all these things that we wanted, and the good thing was that during that time we started to put a plan together, right? Isn't that the blueprint,
the blueprint of
our life?
And really, when you look back, the setbacks that we had, the adversities that we faced, became the catalyst for us to looking at achieving more. So me having a back injury, obviously working at Liverpool Hospital at the time, I could have gone down one of two paths, right? One is that I could have said, oh, my life's over, let's get into the compo route and let's do that. And for some it's well deserved, but for others perhaps that's a choice you're making. And we took the approach of, yes, let's go through that process, but let's look at our options. So I moved from public radiography to private space, and just an off chance remark got us into a radiology practice, which we had a shareholding with no money down, where we found an opportunity where
That's
you were working at the medical center. And I guess really what it highlighted to us is that the quality of the question determines the quality of the answer, right? And the question you had asked was, and these were the doctors that were building another medical center, do you want an X-ray center in a medical center? And they said yes. So
I was not expecting them to say yes. We were new in the country. Remember, we didn't know anything. So,
and so we now then had to find money, not having any. So we approached a fellow radiographer that was well established, and he stumped up the leasing costs and the fit out costs, and I stumped up 3 months of free labor, and that became the start of the journey until the first day, where we didn't have a patient until 4:30 in the afternoon, which sort of rang alarm bells. And that got me reading, and I'd read a book and pass it on to you, you'd find stuff, you'd pass it on to me, and we got onto the seminar circuits where we're doing all the workshops we were doing all of the courses there were, and making sure that we made education the forefront of what we wanted to achieve. So radiography back then, being from the medical background, radiography became a distant memory where the forefront was getting as much education in our belt. And I remember us taking out personal loans and credit cards just to pay for seminars and courses.
We attended a lot of seminars. But the good thing is that we tried those strategies. Whatever we learned, we implemented
something out of each seminar.
Whatever we didn't like, we left it, and the rest was
and then I guess really our true catalyst was attending an Anthony Robbins seminar, where after doing the firework, we sat down pretty much throughout the night, just mapping out our individual goals and morphing them together to see, okay, what were the commons, what was goals that I would need to your goals that I need to support, and my goals that you'd support. And that became, okay, that's our aiming point, and it gave us our true why. And then we worked on the how and then we worked on the where.
Exactly. And what I find really good in what we did over there is we had just started we were newly married, we were in a new country, and we were just starting our life, and it was at that point in time where we mapped those goals for ourselves and put it together as part of our life together, and that was a good starting point to start our life together that way.
Yeah.
And so I think that became very, very helpful, because we both were focused on the same path, knowing this is where we're going. And over the time, I think what that led me to was to trust the process, that this is where we're going. And though when children came, though I was no longer going out and seeing the properties or looking at any of those things, I knew that it was all taken care of. I trusted the process. I knew you were going to do it right. So, I mean, that time I had to step back, and I did bring the children to some of the properties and some of the renovations, I know. But let's go back to 97, and we had the roadmap there that's what we're going to do. We made lots of mistakes too,
Of
remember?
course.
So let's talk about some of the things that people need to watch out for. And how would you do that?
Well, I think the first thing that we made a mistake on was that we became property collectors rather than property investors, making the number of properties the goal as opposed to the income, the outcome, as in income, money coming in, outcome being what's the result in terms of the portfolio, and making sure that each property complemented each other. Instead, what we did was we just being very opportunistic, and to the point where we were buying for the sake of buying, and very quickly amassed a significant negative cash flow within the portfolio, which was being masked by our consistent income.
I had the hunger though. I wanted to be the best, the most, the everything est. It had to be that way for me. So I wanted to have the most number of properties, the most. I fueled that too. I think that's bad on my part. And then we soon realized that, hang on, this is not the way to do it, right?
Yep, that's true. So we realized that, okay, this was actually, we were working for the portfolio rather than the portfolio working for us. And so we changed, we flipped, we sold down quite a few properties to get rid of a lot of the negative cash flow.
Yes.
And then it became a process where we'd buy properties for a set result and a set plan, and we didn't need a check-in with each other in terms of the nitty-gritty of it. Instead, we checked in with each other in terms of milestone, right? And just today, I mentioned to you when we were doing a podcast at
the earlier podcast,
the RPG podcast in North Sydney, and I mentioned to you, oh, by the way, we've just got an unconditional contract on one of the properties that was earmarked to be sold this financial year.
Yeah.
And
my reaction was, oh yeah, okay. Yeah. So it became part of the process. So.
Yeah. So it's no longer emotional investing. It is more, you are investing in the outcome. You're investing in the process, and property just happens to be the vehicle.
Right. And so over the years, I know we've done a lot of property transactions, both for ourselves and for clients. There's obviously a streamlined process now, that how we work, or when we see somebody, what we can do, how we can map out the pathway for them. So can you just, I'm going into the Design Your Decade that we started, like, okay, telling people that this is how you can design your decade, or I just say designing your portfolio, and so just take me through step by step,
sure,
briefly, as to when you come across somebody, where do you start from?
Yeah. So really, Design Your Decade comes and stems from the need to have a global approach, yet a focal point to be able to reach the goal. And so it stops you from speculating on property, it stops you from getting caught up in the headline, it stops you from speculating in terms of cash flow, speculating in terms of equity growth. It just stops you from making mistakes, and it becomes a process where you're living life in the forefront and investing happens automatically, sort of automatically, if you've got Reshmi's guidance or our guidance, where it happens in the background. So it happens by design, and it does take a decade to get to that point. And when you have a formulated approach where you're cutting out all the noise and you're honing down to what you want to achieve based on the capital you've got, your age factor, the negative cash flow tolerance that you have, you are able to click in different types of properties in a sequential way where you can actually see tangible results developing really fast, rather than the sugar rush of really fast growth and then you realize that, okay, I'm heavily negative cash flow. So it becomes part of the formula that takes you and gets you to your end result of lifestyle outcome, where you're not focused on the number of properties, you're not focused on the debt that you carry, you are focused on the income net of all expenses that you get in your hand. Obviously that doesn't happen from day one. It takes a process. So you know, your first 3 years you're more than likely to be in negative cash flow within tolerance limits, but then it gives you the scalability because you're taking a very measured approach to say build, and you're not then following the herd where if everyone's buying in, say, Perth, you're also jumping in there, but it might not be suitable for you. Or if everyone's buying in Melbourne, you're jumping in there because that's what everyone's spruiking and that's what everyone's results are showing, but it might not be suitable for you. So it keeps you safe from that, and then you're running your race in a consistent, really thought out marathon rather than short sprints.
So with all of that you just told me right now, there's a lot of information and a lot of knowledge in there. And I guess you wouldn't expect someone to know all of this, and that's where the Right on Track in our workshops and all these are important. So would you say that whilst building a portfolio, it is important to stay up to date with knowledge or learn about it, and not just go blindly when someone is buying a property, just go and just, okay, I want to buy a property and that's it, that's what you're doing, buy a property? Do you have to really keep up with your knowledge?
You don't need to know the absolute nitty gritty, but you absolutely need to know the fundamentals, right? So you can then base your decision making process on the fundamentals and what the fundamentals the property is that you're buying or selling is giving you, and so it allows you to map out a much more clearer process, much more clearer journey, and the buying process, the knowledge behind it. Look, expertise can be bought, but to be able to buy that expertise, you need to know what expertise you need to buy, right? And hence the need for understanding fundamentals. And once you've got that, you then leveraging off our close to 30 years of investing experience and the multitude of seminars, books, courses that you and I both have done, the mistakes we've made and the aha moments we've had along the journey, encompassing the multiple strategies apart from high-rise development, where you are then using a system that has already been stress tested. Try saying that 10 times. And you're now really making sure that you're not leaving things to speculation, not leaving things to TikTok trends.
So if we go one step up above all this is somebody's life. They're building a portfolio. They started with a blueprint. They've mapped out this is what they want to achieve, and a decade goes by, or a decade and a half, 2 decades go. So what happens? How do you wind down? There's obviously you build up all these portfolio. You want to the use of the reason we buy a property is building that portfolio so that it can give us our lifestyle, right? And we need to be able to. The sooner we realize that, the sooner we can start enjoying the fruits of our labor, right?
Yeah.
And so we don't leave it till the end that I'll have a couple of properties and I'm paying a mortgage and that's about it. You need the properties to work for you. Now, so someone has started, they've been investing, and they're now coming quite a few years into their journey, how do they wind down and start reaping the rewards from their
Yep. And
portfolio?
that's a fantastic question. And really, it comes back to horses for courses, but there are a few fundamentals here. And you notice that I always come back to fundamentals.
Fundamentals,
Right? The fundamentals really are, how are you getting rid of your biggest cost in your portfolio? In other words, your mortgage repayments. Are you supplementing that with high cash flow properties, a la commercial properties? Are you selling down some of your properties after speaking with the accountant to make sure that you're not giving away the farm in terms of tax that you pay, and you're using the sales proceeds to pay down some of the mortgages to unmask the positive cash flow? Are you building secondary dwellings? Are you doing small developments, very safe ones, to further enhance the rental income? Or are you taking the absolute boring route of letting time do its magic, where over a period of time, if you haven't touched the mortgages, they become minuscule in comparison to the rent? And a good example is the very first property we bought, where we bought it for $137,000, 3-bedroom house, 12 years old at that time. Not me, that property.
Oh,
And we still have that mortgage on there. At the time that we moved out, so time frame wise, we bought this in 1998 for 137,000. It was medium price for that area. Didn't shoot out any lights in the look and feel of it, but it was really a home at that time. We then rented it out when we moved out in 2006, and at that time the rent on it was, from memory, $180, and then it quickly went to $340 within 18 months. So there was a strong trajectory of rental at the time. Today it's rented for $850, and if you look at the original debt against $850 a week, that's positive. So if you let time do its stuff, you don't have to own huge number of properties, so long as you have the ability to hold on to each property and the entire portfolio without impacting your lifestyle negatively. And if we held it for a couple of decades, it will become positive cash flow. The entire portfolio become positive cash flow. So you've got two ways, right? You can do a little bit more exciting, more dynamic stuff where you're bringing the goal forward, so you're getting to the income a lot quicker. Or if you wanted to enjoy life and you're looking at, let's take a sedate pace. This will happen in the background. We've done what we needed to do, heavy lifting in the forefront, and now let time do its magic. Just leave it in the background. Come 50, 60 years in terms of age, that can become a strong supplement in terms of income. Complement that with good financial advice and financial planning to blend in your super, blend in other forms of income. You've got a lifetime of income.
very good. Now take me through somebody who's in their 20s or young in their 30s, and they have, let's say, 100,000 saved up, or I don't know, 50 to 100, whatever saved up, and are looking at investing.
Yep.
And they have a very good job and stability is there. So take me through what would you do for, especially a woman, right? Because there's quite a few changes in life will be happening along that journey. So someone in their early 30s or in their 20s, how would you take that process?
So someone in the early years, say below 30, perhaps married, perhaps not married, no kids. You want to take because you've got plenty of time, you want something tucked away, one or two properties tucked away that's not hugely negative cash flow. So you want to be buying affordable properties. Now what I mean by that is that it's affordable to you in terms of the negative cash flow it brings, and you're targeting properties that are predominantly in owner-occupier areas. Could be a villa, could be a townhouse, could be a house. Don't discriminate. All, provided the selection is okay, all will grow at its own pace and will get you to the result. The thing that you need to focus on is how much do you need to chip in on a weekly basis to hold on to that 1, 2, maybe 3 properties, and just set and forget, right? But then when you get into your 40s, perhaps there's kids in the way, there's school fees, there may be some career hiatuses or career advancements, and that'll determine if you're starting from scratch at that point in time. The assumption is that you've probably got a home that you can leverage equity of, so you could go a little bit harder at that time. The dynamics change in terms of the portfolio because you need to give it a helping nudge. So it could be that you're buying a house and you're building a granny flat on it, so you're wiping out your negative cash flow straight away, yet still targeting some level of tax benefits, not that that's the focus. And let's say you're 50, you need to put the portfolio on steroids because you're running out of time. So you need to really move the needle yourself rather than waiting for the market to move. So if I map that out, in the younger ages, you let the market do the movement. As you get a bit long in the tooth, you need to move the needle yourself first and then let the market take up, because it gives you a safety net to offload the property, to spin away from the problem if you hit hard times.
I meet a lot of women and I hear, I'm not ready, I'll wait for this to happen first, I'll wait when things are a little bit more stable, or I'll get there one day, I will do that. I hear a lot of women say that. Now, why do you think, I mean, you also come across people who are building portfolios, what their fears were. Why do you think people say, especially women, say something like that?
It is a both an emotional thing, and perhaps the support network may not be there as strongly as it should be, and it's the fear of failure that gets you to wait. Now, of course, it's in some cases it is absolutely prudent that you actually wait, right? So if you haven't got enough of a deposits and it's impacting the quality of the asset that you can buy, it makes sense to wait until you get into a more better quality demographics, better quality asset. But the more you delay, what you're really doing is giving yourself permission to pay more for exactly the same property, right? Because if you look at the areas where it's worthwhile buying these properties, they are on a upward trajectory overall. So it does go up and down, but the trajectory is upward. So if you're saying I'm going to invest in a year's time when I'm ready, right? And you can't really define what ready is. The area will still go up in value. You'll end up buying the same, if not a lesser quality property within the same area and pay more, right? So don't give yourself permission to pay more for the property. Jump in as soon as you can, as safely as you can. And sometimes it means a compromise between buying a house as opposed to buying a well-located, cost-effective villa or townhouse.
They're really good points. So if someone is not sure about what they need to do, what should they be doing?
Well, I think take a leaf out of our book, in the sense that you need to be educating yourself, right? Because education does a couple of things. It gets rid of the fear, but just as importantly, it makes you cautious in the right aspects of investing, right? So if you have education forums that you can get to, like and the ones that you run for women, to encourage them and to nurture them and to educate them and to how to invest safely with or without their partner, the education actually empowers them to make the right decisions without the fear, and that is very empowering, because I've been to these seminars, I've been to the workshops that you run as the T-boy, and the information that you impart and the grounding that you give in terms of, see, the difference between a male and a female is that you take an emotional approach to it, whereas I'm very logical, and do this, you'll get the result, right? Whereas you get, okay, do this, and I'll show you how to get the results. And that's what, if I, without generalizing and potentially stepping in a minefield, generally a woman needs that nurturing to be able to say, okay, yes, it will work, because not only are you fighting against your own your own thought process, you're also potentially being judged by other family members, like to say, hey, you're going to fail. Yeah, and that's true for males as well, but more so predominantly in the female field, that is true.
Plus, they're nurturing, and females are more about comfort and security. So, I guess the whole idea of women investing differently is because of the nature in which they think and operate, and so that would be the way to go about it. Anyway,
Yeah.
so education is very important, and meeting with like-minded women, or not necessarily only women, people who are, I mean, right on track. Right, when we started Right on Track, what 20 years ago
20
or
years
something,
ago,
like
yeah.
educating people all over. There's so many people have attended our seminars, our education forums. That has made a huge impact on people's lives. So
Yeah.
I would really like to see a lot more women coming in into those events. Or, I mean, my one, I do boutique events, not as big as our Right on Tracks. So that would be really nice to see. And I'd like to welcome you all to come and attend our workshops and our events. That gives good education and helps you grow your portfolio, grow your knowledge.
Yeah,
Get rid of that fear.
that's true. So well, I guess we could continue talking about this forever. I mean,
I know.
you've got me started, and so I can't stop.
I
right?
know. I only just started the beginning of our journey where we just started. I would have
Yeah.
liked to ask for the mistakes that we made as well. So when going back to the early days, we talked about the first property, and remember the second property where we were trying to renovate with a borrowed knife from the there's a lot of stories there to be
Yeah,
discussed. I
yeah.
mean, would be nice to have you back again and talk about all that. But before you go, would you be able to just share a couple of quick tips about what someone needs to do? Actually, just give us a mistake first. What is your biggest mistake?
Yeah.
And then we'll go into what are the few steps someone needs to do if they want to start preparing towards buying a property.
Not addressing the fundamentals is the biggest mistake. So trying to get too high a strategy straight off, so without owning an investment property. So start safe, start small, so that you get used to saying no to the property manager and the tenant, and you used to get used to making decisions, get used to tracking the bills, and then you can scale from there, rather than trying to do a grand plan of I'm going to buy 10 properties because I'm going to be a property mogul. Start with one, do it right, let the dust settle fully before you even decide on the next step, because slow and steady in the initial stages actually sets the foundations really well, so that you can actually scale from there. And the mistake we made was that we were too fast in terms of takeoff, and therefore we burnt a lot of fuel, a la holding costs, to get to pretty much, we would have, if we'd taken a slightly more sedate and more select process, we'd have achieved the same results.
Same results, yeah. We were just pushing. So let's say now we've learned, and we're good now. We don't make those mistakes anymore. But for someone starting out, wanting to start investing, what are the first few things that they really need to work on?
The very first thing is to know what you're trying to achieve, right? What's your goal? And my strong suggestion is start with something tangible. Don't start with I want to earn $1 million in 5 years. Maybe bring it back to what you're earning, or portion of what you're earning. Aim to buy back 1 day a week, right? So that's the income you're aiming for. Once you've got that honed down in the time frame that you want to achieve that, then you go and check in with a investment savvy broker to make sure that you will have the fuel for the journey, both the capital, so that's the deposit, but also how much the bank is willing to lend you, and how much you are able to contribute to hold onto the property. So this is the toll that you're paying as you're going through the journey, so that you've mapped all of those things out, and then you can have a safe start, rather than asking where should I buy. Once you've mapped all of those things out, then the correct question to ask is what should you buy, and then the rest falls into place.
And before you go, would you be able to impart some words of wisdom, like your Wednesday wisdom, something for our listeners? Mostly we have some male listeners and mostly our female listeners.
Yep. Well, so every Wednesday morning I do a thought bubble, which is a quick 1 to 3 minute video that I sit on my desk and blab away because I've been thinking about something going to work. It's a 45-minute journey, so it gives me a lot of thinking time and listening time. So one of the ones that I've done recently is where you need to be setting up a portfolio where you are not working for the portfolio is working for you. So that's the aiming point, not how much can I earn so that I can buy another property, but what can I buy that will help me get out of my PAYG job or get me supplementing my income with the portfolio rather than waiting 2 decades, 3 decades to get to that result.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was very quick. Yeah. But yeah, we got there.
Thank you.
That's Property Investing for Women. I hope you enjoyed this episode. See you again next month.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property, or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned. This podcast has been brought to you by Investor Women.